What is going on YouTube? Joe here with Culination Media and welcome back for another Saturday of Top 5s. This week we'll be counting down my favorite water type Pokemon. This list was a little bit different for me to put together because there are more water type Pokemon than any other type, but it's also probably my least favorite, so it's kind of a strange dynamic. But all that being said, there's going to be an overlap with some of the other types as we'll start to see some Pokemon appear on multiple lists, as you're going to see later on in this video. But anyway, make sure that you are leaving your favorites down in the comment section below so we can all discuss and compare and all that fun stuff. But without further ado, let's get going with number 5. Starting our list today, we have Jellicent, the floating Pokemon. Now the biggest draw to Jellicent for me is probably the design and the typing, which is pretty obvious, I guess. But you got that water ghost, which is just incredibly cool to me, and then you have the stark difference between the male and female Jellicents, which I think is a pretty unique trait. A couple of things that give Jellicent a spooky feel though: that weight at just about 300 pounds and its Pokedex entry referencing how it sinks ships at sea and the crew just vanishes. That's pretty darn creepy. There's also those perfectly creepy glowing red eyes, which are a nice touch to an already great design. Also, mustache. Coming in at number 4 is the Bubble Jet Pokemon Vaporeon. Not sure why exactly, but one of my favorite things about Vaporeon is the fact that it is called the Bubble Jet Pokemon. I remember reading that as a kid and thinking it was just the coolest thing, even if I did prefer Jolteon over Vaporeon. Also, after reading in its Pokedex entry that it can melt in water, it makes a lot more sense to me for it to be able to get the move Acid Armor, because that never really made sense to me as a kid. Vaporeon is a pretty cool choice competitively too, as it is deceptively strong, has pretty good defenses, and it also has access to reliable recovery in Wish, which you can pair with Protect for a decent combination. Overall, Vaporeon is just a solid Pokemon that I've loved for a really long time now, and so I just had to give it a spot on my list. At number 3 is the elegant Milotic. I know that a lot of people really like Milotic, and it's honestly hard not to like a Pokemon with such a great design. But personally, I especially like the effort that Game Freak put into making Milotic a counterpart to Gyarados. For example, both are snake or serpentine-esque evolved forms of very weak fish Pokemon in Magikarp and Feebas. Both appear in times of conflict to either destroy or soothe worries, and they both have the same base stat total of 540. I had to give the edge to Gyarados when it comes to that shiny coloring because I love the red, but overall Milotic's design puts it ahead for me. And since we've established that it's a counterpart, maybe Milotic will get a Mega sometime in Gen 7? Please? Pretty please? Moving on to number 2, we have what I believe is the first repeat of the series, as Greninja also appeared on my top 5 favorite Dark-type Pokemon list. I think it may have even been at number 2 on that list as well. Most of the reasons are pretty self-explanatory here too, as Greninja has one of my favorite shiny colorings and designs in the entire game, access to an awesome signature move in Water Shuriken, and it also has that Protean for a hidden ability, which ultimately ended up getting it banned from OU. One gripe I do have though is the fact that it shares its classification as the Ninja Pokemon with Ninjask. I'm not sure exactly what they would change it to, except for maybe making Greninja the Ninja Frog Pokemon, but I've always been of the opinion that special Pokemon, like starters for example, should have a unique classification. But that's seriously just a nitpick, and Greninja is just that awesome, so we're sticking at number 2. And finally, my number 1 favorite water-type Pokemon is Empoleon. Since we were just talking about classifications, I have to point out the fact that Empoleon is classified as the Emperor Pokemon, which is clearly a reference to the fact that it's a penguin, based off, obviously, an Emperor Penguin, but it's got such a feeling of royalty that is perfectly befitting of such a unique and amazing Pokemon. I love that it has an exclusive type combination of water and steel that grants it 10 type resistances, which is crazy, and the fact that it has a crown shaped like a trident. There's also that sneaky height factor of 5 foot 7 inches that just so happens to also be the estimated height of Napoleon Bonaparte. Really cool stuff, Game Freak. Really cool stuff. So even though I don't talk about it much, Empoleon has to be number 1 on my list. And we didn't even go into the competitive stuff. There's a long list of that as well, because it can serve many different roles. And Empoleon is just an awesome Pokemon, so I'm sticking it at number 1. Well, that is going to do it for this week's Top 5. Remember to leave your own favorites down in the comment section below. As always, the links for my Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, and more are down in the description if you need them or want them. Hope everyone enjoyed, and I will see you all next week. But until then, game on.